Today, the Federal Open Market Committee decided to reduce the degree of policy restraint by lowering our policy interest rate by a 0.5 percentage point.
So now that the Federal Reserve has decided to lower the effective federal funds rate by 50 basis points, with inflation coming in last month at about 2.5%, in this video we have to discuss what happened last time that the Federal Reserve started dropping rates, what that did to inflation, what that did to the crypto market, the expectations for the next meeting coming up on the 7th of November, how the Fed's dual mandate affects inflation and also affects the unemployment rate, and the reason why this is important to pay attention to. We're going to use ChatGPT to answer some very important questions like why did the Fed lower the interest rates by 50 basis points rather than 25? What does expanding economic activity mean for crypto markets? Why is the unemployment rate still considered low, and how does this affect the Fed's policy and ultimately affect the crypto market and price action for your favorite altcoins? And also we're going to dive into the US debt clock and some secret windows that are being posted, giving us some clues of what's to come in the new financial system. The most recent one is showing reparations from the Fed's banking cartel for a century of counterfeiting, money laundering, conspiracy, fraud, racketeering. Why would they post this? As we go through the turn of ages, and you guys are seeing some of the most prominent political figures and people in the music industry receiving justice right now, like P. Diddy, we're going to dissect how this is all connected and how this leads back to Ripple, XRP, Astrology, riddles that have been posted over the past few years, hinting at a potential moon date for XRP. What's the secret to these riddles and the hidden meaning that they have, and how it's all connected to NASA and what they're expecting to happen for a rare nova explosion by the end of this year, and why the Fed's rate cuts are about to trigger a massive move for XRP. We're going to look at some of the largest companies in the world like Google, Apple, Amazon, their valuations, and what this could mean for Ripple and XRP over the next few years. That way you can position yourself properly before Bitcoin breaks out, forms a new all-time high, and we see a rotation into the altcoin market. So comment 777 if you're feeling blessed, if you're feeling bullish, and if you're going to become the first millionaire in your family tree. Confirm it by tap of the like button. Let's run up the likes. We can get over 1,000 likes on this video, and subscribe to the channel as well too. If you appreciate value-based videos like this, as always, let's run it. All right, bull runners, welcome back to the channel. So the past week in the crypto market has been really exciting. We've seen a recovery and a positive response to Jerome Powell coming out in his FOMC speech and discussing that they're going to be dropping interest rates. So let's dissect some of the most important things that he said in his speech. So the first question that a lot of people have is, why did the Fed lower interest rates by 50 basis points and not 25 basis points? Well, the Fed reduces interest rates in the first place to ease the policy restraint on the economy, because lowering rates would stimulate borrowing and investments by making credit cheaper. This move suggests that the Fed is trying to support continued economic growth while ensuring inflation remains under control. But this creates a catch-22 for them and catches them in a pickle here because of what I'm going to explain in a little bit. But for crypto investors, lower rates can lead to more liquidity in the markets, which often benefits riskier assets like cryptocurrencies and even stocks. Now, the problem arises that we're going to discuss and show you guys on the charts here in a little bit is when lowering rates leads to a recession. And so we're not in a recession right now according to their standards, but with Jerome Powell saying that expanding economic activity is taking place, well, for the crypto market, this is good news as consumer confidence is strong, which leads to higher spending and investments. So this is leading to a new influx of capital as investors feel more optimistic about market conditions. It's also going to lead to more adoption of blockchain technology as businesses seek for more efficient systems.
Recent indicators suggest that economic activity has continued to expand at a solid pace. The unemployment rate has moved up, but remains low at 4.2%.
And so because the unemployment rate has been climbing since November of 2023 from 3.7%, and in July it was at 4.3%. In August, just last month, it came down to 4.2%. The reason why this is important is because if we look at the unemployment rate on, Fed's official website right here, you guys can see periods where the unemployment rate would, drop, and then it would rise rapidly, then drop, then rise rapidly, where you can see this dark gray box right here that signaled a recession happening while the unemployment rate was spiking up. So the main concerns that investors have is not if there will be a recession, it's when will it happen as unemployment spikes spikes up, because as you can see, the last few times that unemployment spiked up, the previous time was right here from February of 2020 to April of 2020. During the COVID pandemic, obviously everyone was locked indoors, got the stimulus checks, you couldn't work. Well, this gray box signaled the recession right here. The time before then was back during that 2008 subprime mortgage crash. It shows from December of 2007 until June of 2009, a recession. The time before then was during the dot-com bubble boom from March of 2001 until November of 2001. The time before then, when unemployment was spiking, was all the way back in July of 1990 until March of 1991. And you guys can see every single time that unemployment spiked in the past, we went into a recession. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 out of 12 times a recession came. So there's 100% chance so far, just based on the past, right? Because I'm not a financial advisor. These videos are purely for informational, educational purposes only. Obviously, crypto is very, very risky. You can lose a lot of money, and you most likely will lose money in these markets if you don't know what you're doing and you're holding for the short term rather than the long term. So these videos are purely to help you do your own research. So don't buy, don't sell anything we talk about. But when we look at data and when we look at the facts on the charts, if 12 out of 12 times a rise in the unemployment rate led to a recession, then this is a very important thing that we need to look at for what's about to come. Now, to time the recession is the tricky part, but that's why I'm making this video for you.
Overall, a broad set of indicators suggests that conditions in the labor market are now less tight than just before the pandemic in 2019.
So the next question that you might have is, why is the unemployment rate still considered low, and how does this affect the Fed's policy because the unemployment rate has been rising? Well, the unemployment rate of 4.2% last month is historically low. However, it's slightly higher than pre-pandemic levels, which the Fed has been monitoring closely. And a strong job market tends to fuel consumer spending and economic growth, but it can also put upward pressure on wages, contributing to inflation. So this is the pickle that I'm talking about. For the Fed to keep unemployment low without triggering inflation, it's a delicate balancing act. And for crypto investors, higher inflation could mean more volatility in the crypto markets.
The median projection for the unemployment rate in the S&P is 4.4% at the end of this year, 0.4 higher than projected in June.
So a less tight labor market means there is more slack, with more people looking for jobs relative to job openings. This can ease wage pressures, reducing inflationary risk. For the Fed, a less tight labor market means that they may not need to be as aggressive with rate hikes, and the reason why they've had the rates paused for so long to monitor this, but they're still behind the curve. And the Fed projecting the unemployment rate to rise slightly to 4.4% by the end of the year due to anticipated slower economic growth. As monetary policy tightens, even with the recent cut, some businesses may reduce hiring or even lay off workers. And while higher unemployment is generally negative, it can help reduce inflationary pressures. So for crypto investors, this means that the Fed won't have to continue hiking rates aggressively as we go through this Fed pivot. Now, Jerome Powell said something really important. By the end of this year, 4.4%. So unemployment right now at 4.2, and the highest in July of 2024 is 4.3. If unemployment stays underneath that, then everything is going according to schedule. Now, the real problem would arise is if unemployment goes to 4.5%, then that may cause the Fed to drastically cut rates even steeper, signaling massive uncertainty in the market, and that's what could lead to another crash. So depending on what the unemployment rate comes out for September will really determine what the Fed does in their next meeting to cut by either 25 or 50 basis points. And in the meeting coming up on the 7th of November, 59.6% are expecting a 25 up to a 50 basis point rate cut, whereas 40.4% are expecting them to either keep it the same or cut by 25 basis points.
We now see the risks to achieving our employment and inflation goals as roughly in balance. And we are attentive to the risks to both sides of our dual mandate.
So when Jerome Powell says dual mandate, what does this mean? Well, the Federal Reserve has a dual mandate as defined by Congress. This directs the Fed to focus on two main objectives when setting monetary policy, and that's maximum employment and price stability. So the Fed aims to promote a labor market where as many people as possible who are willing and able to work can find employment. This doesn't mean zero unemployment, but rather the lowest sustainable level of unemployment, accounting for natural job turnover and economic factors. For example, right here from February of 2020 to April of 2020, the unemployment spiked from 3.5% historic low levels to 14.8%, 2% because everyone was stuck in their house and they couldn't work. And no matter what they did, even if they wanted to get a job, they just couldn't because businesses were forced to stay closed. So the Fed assesses unemployment conditions through various data points such as the unemployment rate, labor force participation rate, and job creation statistics. So their goal through their interest rate hikes, pauses, and cuts is to make sure that unemployment stays low and also creates price stability. Price stability means keeping inflation in check so that the purchasing power of the currency remains stable over time. The Fed targets an inflation rate of around 2% per year. And as everyone already knows, that's very difficult to hit that. But if we look at the inflation data, it has been coming down since June of 2022. It's at 9.1%, and it's been dropping, and now it's at 2.5% last month. The challenge for the Fed in balancing these two objectives is they can sometimes conflict. For example, to boost unemployment, the Fed would lower interest rates to encourage borrowing and investing, which could lead to higher inflation if the demand grows too quickly. So by dropping rates, this is going to affect inflation directly because, as you guys know, they rose rates to bring inflation down, and that worked. So let me give you an example here of what happened between July of 2019 and February of 2020 that caused this recession and what to expect moving forward in the future. So the Fed had the rates paused from January of 2019 until roughly July of 2019 at 2.4%. Their first rate cut happened in the August 2019 meeting, going from 2.4 to 2.13. So if we look over here, the Fed had inflation under control, whereas at 1.6, 1.5, 1.9%, then 2%. Then by May of 2019, it was 1.8, then 1.6% in June of 2019. So this was good news for the Fed as they were under their 2% target. So by August of 2019, they thought it was a good time to lower the effective federal funds rate because having rates for this high and paused for a long period of time put inflation back under their 2% target. They figured it's a good time to cut, right? So by August of 2019, when they cut the rates, inflation went from 1.8% in July of 2019 to 1.7% in August of 2019. So this was a good sign that inflation was still under control. So this led them to another rate cut that wasn't as aggressive, but it was still a rate cut nonetheless. So by September of 2019, another rate cut took place, bringing the effective federal funds rate to 2.04%. And from August, inflation went from 1.7 to 1.7%. Inflation was still under control. Everything was going well. So that signaled that the Fed could do another rate cut and monitor and how things are going. So by October 2019, the Fed funds rate was at 1.83% in October. Then from September, inflation went from 1.7 to 1.8%. So it ticked up a little bit, but still it's under their 2% target, which signaled that they could do another rate cut. So they did a little bit more of a drastic rate cut from October to November, bringing it from 1.8 to 1.5 by November of 2019. And this is where inflation started to tick up from 1.8% to 2.1%. So the Fed thought to themselves, okay, maybe we need to keep rates steady and pause for where we're at right now at 1.55 in the December meeting and monitor how this affects inflation and unemployment. So by December of 2019, they kept the rates the same, 1.55, and inflation went from 2.1% in November to 2.3% in December. So because inflation was going up for the next meeting, this signaled to keep the rates the same, not lower them anymore, because then that could send inflation out of control. So by January of 2020, they kept the rates the same. And by January of 2020, inflation went up to 2.5%. So by February of 2020, rates were roughly the same at 1.58%. Inflation actually came down to 2.3%. So it wasn't really out of control here. You know, inflation was bobbling around a little bit below 2%, but it did climb up, partially because of the Fed's decision to drop rates during this period from July of 2019 till November of 2019. And so what I would expect to happen today, because the Fed raised rates at the most rapid pace in history from February of 2022 until August of 2023, and then have just kept rates at 5.33% just recently with their first rate cut, you guys can see that the last time that this happened, we were half of where we were today in these rate cuts. And then this pause led to an inevitable recession from February of 2020 until April of 2020. And that's when unemployment started to rise from 3.5% all the way up to 14.8%. So it was a little bit different of a situation because by November of 2019, unemployment was at 3.6%. So unemployment was actually coming down while the Fed was cutting rates from July of 2019 until November of 2019. It wasn't until they went from cutting rates to having to pause to monitor inflation that by February of 2020, all hell broke loose.
We are not on any preset course. We will continue to make our decisions meeting by meeting.
The pandemic happened, it caught everyone off guard. And sure, this was a black swan event that is very different than what happened during the 2008 or 2000 dot-com bubble boom. But if we look back to when the Fed started cutting rates in July of 2007 and the first rate cut coming in August of 2007, you can see that inflation went from 2.4% to 2% by August of 2007 during that first rate cut. So they thought they had inflation under control. It dropped by 0.4%. It was at their target. So from August of 2007 until the recession started in December of 2007, they kept cutting rates. And look at what happened to inflation from August of 2007 until September. It went from 2% to 2.8. So they kept cutting rates, and it went from 2.8 to 3.5, then to 4.3, and then it stayed roughly around 4% from November of 2007 until May of 2008. So the first rate cut for them happened in August of 2007. So you guys can see, very similarly to what we're going through right now, unemployment started to tick up by July of 2007 to 4.7%. It dropped to 4.6%, very similar to how we went from 4.3 to 4.2. The Fed kept cutting rates, and then unemployment went to 4.7, and then it stayed at 4.7 through the end of the year. So this is like Jerome Powell saying,
we know that reducing policy restraint too quickly could hinder progress on inflation. At the same time, reducing restraint too slowly could unduly weaken economic activity and employment. If the economy evolves as expected, the median participant projects that the appropriate level of the federal funds rate will be 4.4% at the end of this year and 3.4% at the end of 2025. The Fed has been assigned two goals for monetary policy: maximum employment and stable prices. The median projection for the unemployment rate in the SEP is 4.4% at the end of this year, 0.4 higher than projected in June.
So with their expectations at 4.4% by the end of the year, what they're doing is they're kicking the can down the road to prevent a recession from happening this year. So in my opinion, at some point in 2025, whether it's the middle or the end of 2025, we're going to see something like this happen, where we're finally going to break 4.4% for unemployment. It's going to tick up. It might go to 4.5, 5%, and then we'll see what happens, and we'll monitor unemployment and inflation. But as you can see right here, from December 2007 until 2009, unemployment spiked from 5% to 9.5%. We're going to go through something like this again. And what we're experiencing right now with unemployment rising from 3.4 to currently at 4.2 is the first early warning signs that the Fed is completely screwed and their dual mandate will not work. Because every single time in the past that they have gone from raising rates to pausing rates to cutting rates to try and stop an economic slowdown. But if we look at this chart right here for the effective federal funds rate, it's not every single time that the Fed has cut rates that's led to recession. Because as you can see right here, from like 1966, the Fed dropped rates from 5.7% to 3.9. There was no recession during that period. The most important data is unemployment data, where it's been every single time that the unemployment rate has spiked up that a recession has happened. So if the Fed reduces policy restraints too slowly and they don't cut rapidly enough, it risks slowing down economic activity and increasing unemployment. In other words, if rates remain high for too long, businesses may cut back on investing and consumers might reduce spending, which would slow down growth. Now for crypto, this could mean a tougher market environment, as higher rates generally reduce liquidity and risk appetite, making investors less willing to allocate money to crypto assets. So lowering rates is actually good for the crypto markets right now in the midterm, but with an impeding recession coming, this is not going to look good for the crypto market during the bear market. And that's why it's important to position yourself properly at the right time so you don't get wrecked when it's time to sell. So because inflation has dropped from 9.1% to 2.5%, now this is signaling that the Fed can continue to cut by 25 to 50 basis points for virtually each meeting over the next 12 months. There might be 1 or 2 or 3 meetings where they keep the rates paused, depending on what happens with inflation. If they see inflation tick up, then most likely they would pause at the current rate of where they're at. So depending on how September's inflation data comes out, if it comes out at lower than 2.5% and unemployment stays at 4.2% and comes lower, then that would signal another 25 or 50 basis point rate cut. So in my opinion, which I could be wrong here, but everything's not going to come unraveling right away unless there's a black swan event, which could happen at any moment, like what happened at COVID. But because inflation is all the way down here, we're not just going to see it go from 2.5% to 10% in 1 month. It's going to take some time for this to unravel. So I still believe there's time in the crypto market to make money this bull run, because we are witnessing one of the greatest financial transformations in history. And this brings me to the US debt clock. Yesterday, they posted this with a secret window dropping at 6 p.m. last night with a $10 gold certificate in Alexander Hamilton, one of the founding fathers of the United States. And Hamilton's vision was to build a strong central banking system to stabilize the US economy, create a national currency, and establish financial credibility. His work laid the foundation for modern American banking, with many of his ideas influencing the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913, also known as the banking cartel. And they also posted this secret window back in March of 2024 with a fish right here and an X in the center of the fish and what looks like ripples of water emanating and surrounding the fish moving out. So could this be signaling Ripple, XRP, water, liquidity? Well, we have to dive a little bit deeper than this, because you might be asking, what is the circle below the X? And the correct answer is this seal is taken from the first Flag Act of 1777 with 13 stars. It's the flag of the Revolution and early federal period. So 13 stars. So the US Gold Bureau had a very similar seal in gold, as you can see right here, with the same number of stars on the flag, which could be signaling that we're potentially returning to a gold standard. And if you want to know the meaning of the X and also the fish right here posted last night at the bottom of the $10 gold certificate with Alexander Hamilton, you can see this fish right here with what looks like a star exploding behind it. And they put this exact same star behind the fish with the X at the center of it with the ripple surrounding it. This is what's called the Ichthus stamp seal, that is an early Christian stamp seal featuring a fish symbol. The Ichthus or fish symbol is one of the earliest symbols used by Christians. The word Ichthus, which is ICHTHYS, is Greek for fish. However, it's also an acronym in Greek for this phrase right here, which I don't know how to pronounce, like ethos, Christos, theos, ios, something soter, which translates to Jesus Christ, Son of God, Savior. The highlighting the X may be used to draw attention to Christ within the symbol that broadly represents Christian faith. It reaffirms the Christian belief in Jesus as the Christ and the Messiah. And according to Alaska Sally, who posted this on Twitter, their interpretation is that X means the new system or systems. X may also represent assets, real assets like gold, silver, or other hard assets, because they keep posting gold certificates. Or it could include digital assets like XRP, because XRP is designed to bridge liquidity in the new financial system. Whether we're backed by gold or not, XRP is the bridge asset. And X may also come with a trap where the Khazarians who invented the banking system are the ones who may be trying to fool humanity again. But you are smart enough to understand why. The US was never established by righteous men. The founding fathers were mostly Freemasons. Khazarians are done with the US and its petrodollar economy. And this is why people are saying to abolish the Fed. And they just posted this saying reparations from the Federal Reserve banking cartel for a century of counterfeiting, money laundering, conspiracy, fraud, and racketeering. So that's why this is the year where all lies will be exposed.
All of these big dick deviants is all catching hell in 2024. It's up for all of them. It don't matter if you Diddy or whoever you is, TG Jakes, any of them. All lies will be exposed. That's all.
And the US debt clock posted this saying it's the turn of ages from theft, having a little jail cell right here, over to justice with this star exploding right at the top, an X at the center of the United States with 13 stars around this right here where it says justice, and Proverbs 21:15. Also, it shows the date 1776 here. And Jack's Life posted this on Twitter saying, just an observation, Michael Hillegas in 1777, the year after that, first called treasurer of the United States back in 1777. And if we go to the usdebtclock.org and we look in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, you can see M2 money to USA money ratio now is 1,777 to 1. So that's pretty weird. And this brings me to this video right here from Echo to Truth on Twitter, talking about the US debt clock and the turn of ages in a biblical moment that we are going through right now that hasn't happened in over 200 years. This is about a 10-minute video, but I thought this was really impactful. Watch this.
Turn of ages. This is the most recent secret window from the usdebtclock.org's X account. The date that it was released on was September 15th, 2024. Now, before we get into decoding all of this, I need everybody to understand that millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do. This has been proven throughout all of history, whether you're talking about the Sumerian, the Egyptian, or the Babylonians. They always play their moves based on what is written in the stars. And in this most recent debt clock image, they definitely depict that. As you can see, we have the alpha to the omega, which is the beginning to the end. The monetary system is shifting and the billionaires know it. This is why the United Kingdom right here is a theft. They're in prison and we're moving away This image in the background comes from the first astronomer royal, John Flamsky, and inside of this massive book, Atlas Colossalistic, Flamsky cataloged with precise observation and accuracy of nearly 3,000 stars in his time. He did this by using the Royal Observatory that he established over in Greenwich, which became the cornerstone for astronomical research. And in 1690, Flamsky was the very first to record the position of Uranus, not Uranus. Even the famous Isaac Newton was deeply influenced by the observation from Flamsky. As you can see, Flamsky put a lot of detail into his work. And what is depicted above is something that hasn't happened in almost 250 years. In 1776, Pluto was in Capricorn, symbolizing the collapse of authoritarianism, rules, and the restructuring of society. And shortly after that, in 1778 to 1798, Pluto is in Aquarius, with Aquarius representing freedom, innovation, social reform. This period sparked revolutionary ideas that reshaped nations, much like technological revolutionary that we're seeing today, because we are about to go into the age of Aquarius, which makes sense on why they put Proverbs 21:15. When justice is done, it brings joy to the righteous, but terror to the evildoers. Just like in 1776, we had the American Revolutionary War, the French Revolutionary War, and they sought for justice against oppression, bringing joy to those who fought for freedom. And after that, we had the Declaration of Independence, and our Bill of Rights was signed. We are in the middle of a revolution as we speak. And as we enter into the age of Aquarius, new technology emerges that bring justice, but also revolutionizing the way we live and see our life from that day forward. Laugh now, but one day XRP will power the world, providing liquidity that is much needed in the world. This whole entire journey with the US debt clock has been so epic, and I have been very blessed to be able to cover this ever since day one. Many of y'all might remember that this image was uploaded by Brad Garlinghouse, which is the CEO of Ripple, on the day of the New York Proper Party, which was a couple days before we got the very first secret image from the USDebtClock.org. And in Brad Garlinghouse's tattoo, it depicts accurately of the birth chart of all of this on how it lines up with the stars and constellation. As on July 13th, 2023, XRP was deemed not a security. See, I had a feeling that XRP was part of all of it from the get-go, not just because it was the banker's coin, but it resonated with me. Myself, I am an Aquarius, and coincidentally, on the day of my birthday, out of all days, the USDebtClock.org decided to start posting images on their X account. That led me to believe that I am on the right path. Because on October 22nd, we got this secret image above from the USDebtClock.org, and it had this particular coin. This coin was from the Byzantine Empire, which is the Eastern Empire of the Roman Empire, where the West actually fell. The Eastern Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, actually lasted for over 1,000 years, in which the XRP ledger uses a consensus protocol known as the Byzantine Fault Tolerance Consensus Mechanism. And they haven't been shy into letting us know that XRP plays a role in all of this. Because if you think about it, ever since April 8th, when we had the last solar eclipse, everything has actually changed for the better. Think about it. While many skeptics out there thought it was just a nothing burger, they've been planning the solution all along. In a world of debt that is unsustainable, there has to be a solution. You combine this star with that star up there, it creates this star up here, in which they've been letting us know since they started reposting on the website itself that a shift was bound to happen. To me, that looked like an eclipse, in which tomorrow, September 17th, is a lunar eclipse. Donald Trump has told us to watch the skies, right? Tonight, September 16th, Donald Trump is going to be announcing the launch of his decentralized finance protocol, World Liberty Financial. And in my opinion, his DeFi application is going to be able to help us tap into the new USA Treasury dollar that is backed up by all of this real world asset. This way, we can reveal all of this hidden wealth again on the day before the lunar eclipse. Because currently right now we are at a breaking point in the global economy. We need to add liquidity to the market. That is the only way to keep this thing from collapsing. So in my humble opinion, what they're going to do to provide liquidity is that they're going to be tapping into all of this real world asset to provide that liquidity for the markets. Again, it is written in the stars and they know it. As there is a comet that is approaching us that is supposed to be visible by September 27th, and it is supposed to be the brightest comet that we have seen in decades. They named it Atlas for a reason, and from my research, this comet is visible by the naked eye without a telescope all the way up until October 12th. And within this whole entire time period of being able to see this comet, we have on October 6th being the last day that the SEC can file an appeal for the SEC versus Ripple case, in which we know that they are not going to appeal because they already admitted that they're wrongdoing. At that point, I believe XRP can moon, especially considering that Bitstamp and Ripple is going to launch a derivative exchange on the XRP ledger, bringing over $631 trillion. Talk about a flip of the switch moment. And like I've been echoing ever since they started testing the Ripple RLUSD, also known as the real USD, we are living in biblical moments. Again, astrologically speaking, this is something that hasn't happened since 1776. Pluto in Capricorn, Pluto in Aquarius. These are magical moments that will be in the history books. It has always been in the constellations. Now, where does XRP go from here? Well, I'm not an astrologist, but I did plug everything into ChatGPT, and this is what they had to say. As Pluto in Aquarius, expect a revolution in innovation and decentralization, with XRP at the forefront of global financial transition. Aquarius is about breaking down the old guard. Saturn in Pisces, as regulatory structures are about to dissolve, paving the way for clarity and growth in the crypto space. XRP's legal win is just the beginning. And as we go into October with the eclipse, brings sudden change as XRP and crypto could see a massive breakout as the financial world recollaborates to the new order. The next 6 to 12 months will be crucial for XRP and the future of finance. This is not just another market. It is a revolution written in the stars. And the billionaires know it. This is why it's so important to know what you hold. Let's go.
So this leads me to the riddles that have been posted out there from this account, Bearable Guy, saying Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you all. Very interesting times are coming. Now this was posted back in December of 2021 around Christmas time, where you can see this bear sitting by a campfire with stockings right here. You know, you see some symbols in this image, but one of the most important things to notice is in the upper right hand corner, you can see a king in the lower left of the window, a rocket ship with a knight who is, symboled as Brad Garlinghouse, heading straight to the moon while there is an explosion of a star right here up in the sky. Now what's interesting is there was another post right here in 2023 saying Merry Christmas and Happy New Year from the bear 2024. 400FFCAELUM. So he's posting riddles and code here, and this account definitely knows some stuff because this was December of 2023. But what was interesting about this post right here is the bear is watering a sunflower plant. You know, you can see the knight is trying to keep this little thing right here out with the king standing on some leaves on the ground or something. And then you have this little figure holding an hourglass. But the most interesting part of this that was discovered by Not Financial Advice on Twitter here is the sun over a bearable guy's greenhouse are actually galaxies colliding. So check out what happens when you reduce the brightness of the image at the top of the screen. It doesn't look like just a sun. It looks like two galaxies colliding. Now, he did a lot more research into this, and I also pulled up NASA's website right here, and NASA is confirming that global astronomers are awaiting a rare nova explosion right here. So where a red giant star and a white dwarf orbit each other in this animation of a nova similar to T Corona Borealis. Now, the red giant is a large sphere of shades of red, orange, and white. I'm going to save you guys the details of this. The most important thing to understand is around the world this summer, professional astronomers alike will be fixed on this constellation deep in the night sky, but it's not the 7 stars of the Corona Borealis, the northern crown, that has sparked such fascination. It's a dark spot amongst them where an impeding nova event so bright it will be visible on Earth with a naked eye is poised to occur by the end of this year. They're saying September. I mean, we got 7 days left in September. If this happens this month, that would be absolutely insane. But by the end of this year, they're expecting it to explode. This will be a once-in-a-lifetime event that will create a lot of new astronomers out there, giving young people a cosmic event that they can observe for themselves. So T Corona Borealis is dubbed the Blaze Star and known to astronomers simply as TCRB. It's a binary system nestled in the northern crown some 3,000 light years from Earth. So could that be what's in the image above the greenhouse right here? It's not a sun, but it's the collision that we can see right here on NASA.gov's official website with this rare nova explosion that's going to take place. And could that event be also the date that XRP or XLM explodes in the sky? Because in this picture, you guys can see a star and then something else behind it. But right here on this vertical part of the window, you guys can see a very specific circle right here that the editor of this image very deliberately added here. Could it be the white dwarf that is orbiting the red giant star in this animation on NASA's website? Also, this was posted by Not Financial Advice saying, remember when Will Ferrell came out with this Christmas song talking about Ripple? Now, I'm not going to play the whole song, but I do want to play a clip for you. Listen to this.
And now if we choose this 2, 1 goes to 2, then 4, and then it jumps from 4 to 8.
So as we dive further down the rabbit hole, this just gets weirder and weirder because JP Morgan, the guy who started Chase Bank all the way back to where now Jamie Dimon is the CEO of it, he said a while back that millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do, and they use it secretly to align celestial events with when they decide to do stuff in the physical realm to increase their luck and other reasons. And I'm not just talking about the cookie cutter Mercury retrograding nonsense that you see on Instagram from all these people that use that as an excuse for being too lazy to do anything because their Mercury isn't retrograding or the moons and the suns aren't aligning for them to have motivation, which is complete nonsense. We're talking about something that is a much deeper astrological event that billionaires are hinting at. Look at this picture right here. Brad Garlinghouse has a tattoo of XRP with some stuff going around it that you guys can explain to me. David Schwartz also posted this saying all the elements are now taken. Google has earth, Apple has air, Amazon has fire, Ripple has water. Now, if we look at the data of these companies in terms of the valuation, well, Apple's market cap is $3.4 trillion. Google's market cap is $2 trillion. Amazon's market cap is $2 trillion. And XRP's market cap is only $33 billion. So to get to just $2 trillion, if we take 33 billion and multiply that by, let's say, a 50x from right here, that'd be $1.65 trillion still underneath the valuation of the other companies. And if we take 0.60 and multiply that by 50, that'd be $30 for XRP. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to happen. That's just example purposes only. But I just find it strange that the wealthiest people on this planet, including JP Morgan, is talking about billionaires using astrology. You got a song coming out from Will Ferrell, one of the Hollywood elite, talking about Ripple going from 2 to 4 or 4 to 8. We have this blaze star getting ready to explode in the T Corona Borealis. It's dubbed the Northern Crown. We have the sun over the bearable guy's greenhouse resembling galaxies colliding. We got a king right here with a crown in the image. We also have a bear watering a sunflower plant. There's a place called the Royal Observatory in Greenwich in southeast London, which plays a major role in the history of astronomy and navigation. And that's all because the prime meridian passes through it. If we go to the digitalpoundfoundation.com, they're hosting an event this year called Meridian 2024. And if we look at the About section of this event, it's saying this is Stellar Development Foundation's annual conference. I can't make this up, guys. It's going to take place in London, England from October 15th through the 17th, literally right down the street from the Royal Observatory. Now here's where this gets weirder. The Royal Observatory has a bear named Ted who lives in a planetarium for children underneath 7 that they use for cartoons to take them on adventures around the solar system. And if we go to the Royal Observatory's official YouTube account and we look at the most popular videos, we can see one right here that's from 3 years ago with 21,000 views showing a solar system holiday. And in this video right here, we can see a bear in an astronaut costume and a sunflower plant. So this bear is traveling around with this plant, educating kids about the solar system. So could this have any connection to this bearable guy's greenhouse image of the bear watering a plant with galaxies colliding in the top? I think you guys know what this leads to here. Also, super weird that Stellar Development Foundation's annual conference is happening right down the street from the Royal Observatory over in London between October 15th through the 17th. On NASA's official website, they're straight up telling you that they're awaiting a rare nova explosion. In this image right here, we can see the night Brad Garlinghouse heading to the moon while an explosion is taking place in the sky, in the night sky, with a bear sitting in a den. All at the same time that the US debt clock is posting these encrypted things right here in this turn of ages with a star exploding in the sky with an X right here and hinting at US gold certificates with a potential return to a gold standard. So could this explosion be the date that everything changes for XRP and even Stellar's XLM? Because if we look right here, Jed McCaleb's private space station venture VAST might be more than just science fiction here, because some of the biggest names in the space industry are billionaires. Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Richard Branson. The newest person to join this small circle, or at least by personal net worth, is Jed McCaleb. And his space station company VAST is partnered with SpaceX to be the first private company to launch and operate a fully commercial station in orbit. Now, for those of you guys that are unfamiliar with Jed McCaleb, he's a software developer who was one of the first creators of the now infamous Mt. Gox Bitcoin exchange and a founder of Ripple. According to some estimates, his net worth is around $2.5 billion. So all of this is happening at a very pivotal time where XRP still stays below 60 cents and XLM is below 10 cents right now. So could this be the year that everything changes? I'll let you guys decide for yourself, but I'm curious on what your thoughts are on all of the information provided in this video. If you guys want to discover how to earn more crypto in less than 10 minutes per day with the #1 play to earn XRP game and subscribe to our video newsletter, you can go to bullrunners.com. The link will be in the description below. Just put in your best email address. You'll get helpful videos like this sent right to your inbox when they drop. And you also see what I'm doing to earn an extra 1,000 to 2,000 XRP per day before XRP explodes. So I appreciate you guys. I will see you on the next video. As always, you know what to do. Stay bullish.